Hey everyone, to quote my good friend the Bronze Blogger, hello fellow BB-Dubbers. So I'm here today to give you an in-depth sniff and review of some of the new Spring 2017 test collections currently featured in a handful of Bath & Body Works test stores. So as you may know, I used to be deeply addicted into the test candles back a few years ago when I lived in New York and had the ability to go to the New Jersey test store. That canceled out in 2014, but then I recently relocated to the Northern Virginia area. Check out my other channel, The Gentleman Next Door, to see the life and times of me and my husband Fabrizio here in Virginia. And there actually is a test store in the DC area, so I've been able to kind of get back into it a bit without going hog wild like I was in the past. And also it seems like they have shifted the way they test, where they used to test in like the 5 or 6 test stores everything. Now they have 1 or 2 core stores that they do conceptual tests in Ohio, and then a handful of other stores that they do these early releases that are still tests, but not, quite to the level maybe that they used to. So, Spring 2017, these candles came out about 2 weeks ago, I think, at this point, which is kind of crazy, but to be expected, especially with the early releases they tend to be doing now. This was kind of the earliest autumn and holiday collections that we've ever seen, even in going wide. But so right now, they're really just kind of 2.5 collections. Usually we see 3 or 4 easily. There are rumors of bringing back sort of a, the Sweet Shop 2014 or whatever that was collection. We've been hearing that for a couple of years. Hopefully it comes to fruition this year. This is what I would call sort of their fresh picked collection. The sign at the store only said "just a candle," fragrances that light up a room and refresh your senses. So it didn't really say the collection name, but it's close enough to what their fresh picked collections have been in past seasons, past years. Then they have their kind of white barn core collection that you're used to now that has colored glass, white wax, the standard labels, and it can be anything and everything from conceptual scents to fruity to old, returning, brand new, repackages, whatever they want to throw. I kind of call it the best sellers collection because they're going to bring back in the same name or the old name, or rather new name, some of their best selling candles so that they have an excuse to sell them nearly year round. Things like your endless weekends and your watermelon lemonades, etc. So there's that, and then there is, everyone has seen at this point the marble test collection, or not test, rather, it was a test in the sense that they wanted to see how it would sell, but it went wide. The marble collection from this fall, you can see a review that I did on the Woodland Forest candle in that collection a couple months back. It has returned in the sense that there's a collection, the most haphazard collection perhaps they've ever released, of about 5 candles in a similarly marbled glass, except that they're the regular price instead of the $29.50. They have the most strange scents. They're supposedly almost all new, except there are some repackages, some weird names that just not even beyond conceptual, just don't even make sense. I'll get into those with my other video when I talk about the White Barn Core collection. But the bummer is, if anyone picked up the marble candles last time, you saw it was a thicker glass, and the method that they put the marble, sticker or coating on was really well done. It was, you could not pick a seam apart. It was completely melded to the glass, whereas this one is more just a wraparound thin sticker. You could peel it off. It's not as impressive looking. Par for the course, kind of, with Bath & Body Works at this point. But before I go into those, I'll just tell you all of the fragrances that are in this collection, and then I'll tell you what I think about each of the, or what I think of the sort of the visuals of them, and then the notes. I'll give you, I'm going to do 3 different videos for each of these, so they're not the longest videos in the history of the world, but being that this is the first one where I go through Tomato Vine, I'll do a little bit more in-depth about the other fragrances that are in this collection. And check out facebook.com/TouchTheFireTwice, where I shared the early snapshots that I took in the store. So before the video came out, if you follow me over there on Facebook, you'll have seen more photos that share these. So you've got this Tomato Vine, Honey and Tangerine, Wild Sage and Aloe. Also a Lavender Vanilla, which we know, we smelled before. Georgia Peach, Sugared Lemons. What else have we got in there? Let's see here. Those are the main ones. Then you've got a White Gardenia Floral. You've got Eucalyptus Rain, which we've all smelled before, and the only other one I can think of in that collection is Praline, Pecan Praline, which is kind of weird to throw in a foodie one there. Usually they lean towards keeping the fresh picked collection mostly, you know, plants and flowers. Some years they have thrown in things like cinnamon sugar donuts or whatnot, but never really fit, in my opinion. But this year it seems like you've got, what, these three, let's count them out actually. These three plus the Praline, Eucalyptus Rain, Sugar Lemons, Georgia Peach, White Gardenia, that's 8, and the Lavender Vanilla is 9. There may be some other ones that I've missed because the collections don't always come in to all stores, but 9 sounds probably about right. So let's talk first about the packaging. You know, I actually really like it. If they're going for the fresh picked, I think it's kind of very simplistic, but kind of pretty. Now, the nice thing is, if you don't like this label, I do love the jars, so turn it around and you're good to go. It is the frosted glass that we first were introduced to at the Coastal Cool collection back in like 2014. That's, you know, red. It's like a red coating on the outside. And then the labels are sized like a rectangle, like a long rectangle, just clear there, and then it's all raised, kind of embossed lettering, and then they just have the black handwritten font with a, you know, painted image of the fruit or the flower or whatever, and then just scented candle, established 1990, Bath and Body Works. It's funny, sometimes they throw on the 1990 thing when they're doing more of their kind of throwback, kind of fresh picked collections or market collections. Some changes to the bottom of the label, nothing crazy except that there's no longer a 100% satisfaction guaranteed, just guaranteed, so I guess when they decide it is. And the price here for this collection remains at $22.50. However, all of the White Barn and the Marble candles are at $24.50. That could just be for the test release, hard to say, but clear to say they are testing the waters. Now for Tomato Vine, the notes in this one are sun-kissed tomato leaves, so not the tomato but the leaves, fresh spring greens, and hint of lemon. Now, all of my candles, if you do follow me on The Gentleman Next Door, you know are in storage right now, save for a couple that I've pulled out for the season. So I cannot compare this to the two candles that it is closest to, and that would be Tomato Garden, which was a failed test from the 2012 Spring Fresh Pick collection, and Heirloom Greens, which may have gone wide. I can't remember if it was Heirloom Greens or Snap Peas. I know Snap Peas didn't go wide. Heirloom Greens may or may not have gone wide. That was probably spring 2014, I think, as a test scent. Closest to those two. I wish I could smell them side by side to really be sure, because it's hard to say. Now, Tomato Garden, I loved it. It was weird. You got a little bit of the tomato leaves, like, you know, that very green, fresh smell if you rub a fresh tomato leaf for the vine. But there was also a real sweetness to it, like a very sweet tomato. Tiny, tiny hint of maybe a fruit in there. Well, granted, a tomato is a fruit, but like some sort of a very, very fine currant or berry in there, just to provide a tiny hint of sweetness or balance to the kind of almost more astringently sweet tomato. But I loved it. It was really unique, really interesting, and I thought it was fantastic. So I was thinking, okay, Tomato Vine, it's got to be Tomato Garden, right? Well, let's sniff this. It's definitely not Tomato Garden, which is okay, but I really like that one. Rather, what I think, if not a direct repackage, it is more a repackage with a twist of Heirloom Greens. Now, if you bear with me here, I guess I can actually look up what the Heirloom Greens, if I were a true professional candle blogger, I guess I would have looked up and had my notes ready here as far as the fragrance notes for the Heirloom Green candle. So, according to no, I don't want to watch my own review of that. Heirloom Greens, however, I can show you, I guess, what it looked like. And I actually do have a review on this from a couple years ago if you want to see it. Heirloom Greens looked like that. And let's see here. That was called Escape to the Garden with this cheerful blend of heirloom greens and tomato vines. Okay, so kind of makes sense. I actually, now if I read that, I'm pretty sure that this is probably a direct repackage of that. Because when you sniffed that, it was a very kind of Very, very fresh, green. You know, greens you could think, oh, is it herbal? No, it wasn't really herbal. It was kind of like a true, like, fresh cut greenery from your garden, with that sort of tomato vine, sort of that fruity vegetableness to it, but not exactly. Now, the tomato garden, gosh, this is so trashy that I'm doing this. I believe this is probably a Little Balladeer review, so I'm scoping on her here. This was the tomato garden candle, what that looked like. I do not have, bummer, I do not have the description of that, but I certainly did, I believe, reviewed that at some point or another. That was from 2012. Little Balladeer did review it. She said it was V8 with some tomato sauce, a real tomato scent, which I actually would agree with. So tomato vine, again, I like it. It's pretty much heirloom greens, which I did not love as much as tomato garden, because to me, the greenery part of this, granted, I like a tomato vine, but the greenery part of this is a little bit more common in a candle, whereas if you smell something that actually smells like a fresh cut tomato, with a little bit of greenness in there too, but the actual tomato, when have you ever smelled something like that for a candle? It's like, it's a really like interesting play, like between you know, like greenery and fruit and earthiness of the vegetables, really kind of gender like identity issues in there as far as you know, what it wants to be. Is it fruity? Is it kind of herbal? Is it what? But in a really good way. And this one is a little more straightforward. Now it smells like a tomato vine. There is a hint of, what do they say in here again? They say green tomato leaves a hint of lemon. Do I get lemon? Perhaps. I mean, it's the greens, it could have some of that in there, but this is not much to really say about this other than I do like it. I hope it goes wide. It's probably the most unique of his collection, so if one doesn't go wide, it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't this one. Really nice wicks on that, I'm just seeing now too. I will say, I do appreciate their lids on these, because it wouldn't have surprised me with this glass if we had just had dust covers on those. Don't be surprised if when they go wide, they come out with just the dust covers, as opposed to the lids. But tomato vine, again, not a whole lot to say on it. It's fairly strong. If you like those really fresh, I hate to even say herbal, because it's not like a basil or rosemary or sage. It is like greens from the garden, true tomato vines. So if you like that, I think you'll like this candle. Certainly something really, really fresh and nice for spring. Stay tuned. I will run through, in the next video, I will talk about the ones that I have not purchased to give you my quick sniff or descriptions on those, as well as diving into the next two here, Honey and Tangerine and Wild Sage and Aloe. So until then, take care and thanks for watching.